Page 4. I go for refuge and turn enlightened to the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha. By my accumulations or practice of giving and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit sentient beings. I go for refuge and turn enlightened to the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha. By my accumulations, practice of giving and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit sentient beings. I go for refuge and turn enlightened to the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha. By my accumulations or practice of giving and so forth. Nam Dāgē jīnsā gē bē sō nam gē dōlā pēngjir sāngyē dō barē shū sāngyē chō dā sō gē chō nam lā chāngyō bar dō dāne gē Dāgē jīnsā gē bē sō nam gē dōlā pēngjir sāngyē dō barē shū sāngyē chō dā sō gē chō nam lā chāngyō bar dō dāne gyab sō chē Dāgē jīnsā gē bē sō nam Tola Benjira Sanje Drubarasho Om Ye Dharma Hetu Prabhavam Hetum Tesham Datha Gato Hevatat Tesham Chayo Nirodha Evam Bhati Mahashramanaye Swaha Om Ye Dharma Hetu Prabhavam Hetum Tesham Datha Gato Hevatat Tesham Chayo Nirodha Evam Vati Mahashramanaye Swaha Om Ye Dharma Hetu Prabhavam Hetum Tesham Datha Gato Hyavatat Tesham Chayo Nirodha Evam Bhati Mahashramanaye Swaha. All phenomena arise from causes. The causes are taught by the Tathagata. Cessation of causes is well as taught by the great seer. Okay. Yesterday we did believe all pervasive conditioned suffering. The suffering, there are three kinds of suffering. Suffering change, pervasive conditioned suffering. And of the three, the Buddha, when the Buddha taught that this is the truth of suffering, Acharya Dharmakirti, 7th century great Indian logician, philosopher, psychologist, and enlightened master. What is that? Is that when the Buddha taught that this is the truth of suffering, Buddha is introducing us to the truth of the third level of the suffering, pervasive conditioned suffering. If you don't understand this, then there's no way by which we can get out of samsara completely. So some of the examples that we gave yesterday, if you would remember, what examples we gave for the pervasive conditioned suffering? Number one, involuntary birth in samsara, number one. Number two, being under the sway. Being under the sway meaning being under the control of contaminated karma self-afflictions. Number two, then, and the aggregates, contaminated aggregates. And then even the contaminated neutral feelings. Okay, so why these are referred to as the pervasive conditioned suffering? Number one, in what way they are suffering? Number one. Number two, that why they are referred to as the pervasive. then why they are referred to as conditioned. So each one of these we need to know. First, suffer, and the first lesson pervasive. Say the whole samsara that we talk about, that the without realizing emptiness, then the only place that we live in is samsara. And samsara is divided into three groups. And samsara is divided into three groups. What are they? Desire realm, formless realm. Good. Okay, those of us who are the new here, you may find a little confusing that how that others already know about these things without any without me explaining. Says they already know that because that they have been attending some other courses, not a master's course, not a diploma course, certificate course, or any other courses. FBMD renders many courses, so they are part of some courses there. So the whole samsara is divided in three groups known as the desire realm, form realm, and formless realm. And we need to know these technicalities. And it's not that difficult. Only thing is that if you think that, oh, these are difficult, there are so many things, then we'll never grow. Say, whatever we learn some things, particularly technical things, if you learn this, then your thinking becomes very clear. The clarity will come to your mind, and confidence will come to your mind. So, the whole samsara divided into three groups: desire realm, form realm, and formless realm. And if possible, if you try to know the meaning, what are these? If you know the meaning behind these classifications, then it becomes easy for you to remember. So first, the desire realm. The desire realm is the realm where the beings who take birth in this, they are predominantly after the sensual desires. Desire realm is the realm where the beings take birth. That the beings who take birth in it are predominantly after the sensual desires, like say the external objects. For the five sensual objects, they desire after the five sensual objects. If you look at the world, we see that we crave for the food, the music, and then what? The smell, perfume. So this is how you are so driven towards this. If you are not only into these, then people think that you something wrong with you, right? So this is the mark of the desire realm. So the where the person who takes birth in this realm, they're marked by uh, sensual desire for sensual objects. Five sensual objects. What are they? Smell, taste, touch, then visual, then sound. The five sensual objects. Next is the formless. Formless, to take birth there, they are way more matured, way more evolved to see that all the sensual desires, they're extremely gross. And this is something that I would highly recommend all of us to come to get sense of. Say the gross and the subtlety, the gross and subtle. The same object, like a house, you see gross and subtle. Same, the books, gross and subtle. Mobiles, gross and subtle. And how the people talk with the same language, English, some very gross, some very subtle. And then the thought processes, some very gross, some very subtle. So this is something that we need to identify what they are like, what is meant by gross and subtle. And so this is more, I would say that people who are into aesthetics, they will be very happy to hear this word, this description, the distinction between the gross and subtle. People who appreciate aesthetics. And whereas if one does not have the aesthetic sense, then you will not really understand what I'm talking about. So those who have aesthetic sense, you will know this. Okay. So as I said earlier, in fact, I am the somebody who has this little bit of taste of aesthetics, but I know that something is wrong. It's very gross. It's not like it should not be like this. It should be better. But if you ask me how, I have no clue because I'm not trained that way. So in Tibet house, they say when I entered the building, the receptionist was waiting there for anybody, just sitting there. And then I would move my eyes here and there, right? And the receptionist little nervous, and I said, "Are you nervous?" And she would say that a little bit. And I said, "Why?" And she would say that my seniors, older staff, they would tell me that Geshe rolls his eyes here and there, right? Which means that you should be very careful where things are going wrong, right? And I said, what did they tell you more? What more did they tell you? So they said that Geshe is so particular with even with the notice board, all the pieces of the papers that you put a notice board, they should be so aesthetically done and symmetrical. And even the pins, they said that this is what she said. Even the pins, if it's red here, it should be red here. All right, that's too much. So how she, they were being informed by the elders, the seniors. I don't know. Okay, so yes, to some extent that's true. So basically, in my room, I'm not really concerned about all this aesthetics, but in the office, it should be very aesthetically clean because it's office. It's not my private property. It's office. It's the office of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. This is what is represented. What represents the 6 million Tibetans in Tibet. So I should not take it lightly. So there should be some aesthetic sense there. Okay, so this is what I'm saying. So how many you have that sense, gross and subtle? Even when you talk, some people, what they talk is so rough. Language was so rough. Some of the language so beautiful. Even the writings, compositions, some of the writings so rough. Whereas some is so beautiful. You something inside it moves here and there like this, like a dance. How many you sense it? Sense? Okay. So the if you, for example, say if you go to say some places, the building constructions, right? Sometimes when I was going the cars and seeing the building constructions, what kind of architect is that? It feels so sick. Whereas in Singapore, I see the buildings, right? The color combinations is amazing. Wow, just see the color combinations. Wow, everywhere. The sense of color combination is just amazing. So you can see these contrasts. And the Kunchok's design, they're so aesthetically beautiful. Her designs. Raise hand. Yeah, her designs, meaning her building designs. Look at the buildings which they did. So beautiful, it's amazing. So this is what I meant by subtle and the gross. If you appreciate it, then you can apply this to your mind. Even the mind, they're very subtle and very gross on the mind, on the level of the mind also. Then within the mind, we see that, for example, like meditating, even the meditation, even the good meditation, within that, they are again very gross and subtle, which hopefully we'll learn later on more. So let's say, in a very simple sense, many of you are already aware of, like meditating on just a breath. The breath. Yes, you can gain very deep experience, but it's a very gross. Object is very gross. The breath. Object very gross. Then you move to the senses. The senses, it's subtler than the breath. The breath is very grossly evident. You can feel it very grossly. And then senses, bodily senses, subtle bodily senses, these are way subtler than the breath.
then you're able to identify these subtle changes happening in your body, the senses. So the next is the mind which feels the senses. The mind. Even the senses, they are related to tactility. Now the mind which feels the senses, that is purely non-tangible, non-physical. It's so difficult to identify that. That is number 3. Breath, senses, and then the mind. The mind which feels these senses, observing this mind, it becomes way subtler. So in comparison with the mind, then the senses become extremely gross. Then from the mind, it goes to the emptiness of the mind. From the mind, it goes to next is the emptiness of the mind. This is even more subtle, even more subtle. Then at that point, we see that all your, the physical, verbal, mental reactions, they stop. Automatically, they stop when you see the emptiness of the mind. So, say, just by observing the breath, you see that many of the reactions stop. Automatic reactions, they stop when you're able to maintain the single pointedness of the breath. Just observing the breath, you see that many of the involuntary reactions, physical, verbal, mental, they are stopped. Then go to the senses, it'll stop even more. Then go to the mind, then you see the whole world is extremely a different world. Just observing the mind, which observes the breath, which senses the sensations. That mind is even in a different plane of reality. That stops so much of the reaction. And how do you know that what kind of reactions are being stopped? So that entirely it depends on your personal experience. So we have to first learn these. What is that like meditating on the breath? What is that like meditating on the senses? What is that meditating on the mind which observes the senses? What is that like the meditating on the emptiness of the mind which observes the senses and the breath? So each one of them you need to have some experience. If you don't have the experience of each one of them, then you should be happy with whatever you have. Otherwise, while we get the opportunity to be exposed to all these 4 levels, it's good to get experience of each one of these, and then you are the best judge to decide which has the greatest of the effect. So meanwhile, it doesn't mean that when you have the subtler ones, the grosser ones are to be discarded. No, we practice all, and they have their own benefits. Okay, so this is one thing that we need to remember. Now, next, going back to the point, pervasive conditioned suffering. 3 realms. Those who take birth in the form and the formless realm, they see the physical as so gross. Physical is so gross. For example, so what we have, the physical is so gross, including the breath, physical tactile sensations. They're all very gross. This is what the formless realm. They see this, and then they more go deeper into the samadhi meditation, a purely mental experience, rather than the physical senses or the breath. It goes deeper. So when they go deeper rather than go into the sense, so for the desire realm, meaning the beings whose minds are whose minds are directed towards the sensual desire, sensual objects, including your, the tactile sensation, in body sensations, the breath, and all these things. These are included. So whereas the formless, then the mind goes deeper. Mind goes deeper into the purely into samadhi, purely mental. And for them, the physical seems so gross, including the breath. In the breath, I would say that as I age, now I'm, my mid-50s. So to my surprise, I can see that with the body changes. So even I could feel the change in the breath. I could feel it. They changed the breath. So earlier I took for granted. Breath is almost the same. No, it's not the same. Younger one and the olders. The breath is very different. There's a difference there. So what I'm saying is that with the formless, then the mind goes into the samadhi. It sees the external physical form form of the desire realm is so gross. Whatever the physical form of the desire realm, say the visual, sound, smell, taste, tactility, all is very gross. So they go into the form realm. Then the formless ones, they see not only just the physical form of the desire realm, form in general as so gross. They go to the formless state. They go to formless state. So that is, so your meditation becomes subtler, subtler, subtler. They go to the formless state. So there is the four formless states. In the form realm, there are four form realms. Four form realms referred to as the first concentration, second concentration, third concentration, and fourth concentration. And for formless realm, for forms again, there are four: infinite space, infinite consciousness, and vacuity, and the peak of existence or peak of samsara. Let me repeat it. Formless realm, the form realm, four forms are easy, but of course within the four form, again there are more divisions. I don't want to go into this. Just form, let's say four divisions: first concentration level, second concentration, third, fourth concentration level. Then the formless, there are four: infinite space, infinite consciousness, vacuity, and peak of existence slash samsara, meaning peak of existence or peak of samsara. Okay, four. Now, let me quickly explain this. These are extremely important, particularly if you want to go deeper into your psychology, to deeper into the study of the psychology, or deeper into your own psyche to see the nuances of your mind. Then we have to know these. These are incredible great treasures. Say the infinite space, the first one, infinite space. For these, they see that the physical in general is so gross for them. So, what is subtler than physical? Space. The space that we see, that is way subtler, way subtler. And to my amazement, some people, how many of you belong to this category? Some people, yes. For example, for me, in my room, what I need is that I need the basic necessities, like say the sitting, the sitting space, and so forth. And one of my friends, he was in Australia, and he said that I'm so fed up with all these the interiors, like the sofa and so forth. I discarded everything. My house, clean, pure, empty, right? So some people are frustrated seeing all these things like a table, and some people their house is filled with tables and so forth. And some people they are just fed up with seeing these things. It's so gross. They discard everything. Whatever they have, they discard it, right? And it gives so clean, nice house. I don't know what for they need that house then, right? They may why you don't have a smaller one then. This might not. It's not my business. It is his business. So it is his work. So he said that no, I'm fed up with seeing all these table, chairs, and so many things. I just clean this up, and so vacuum is it makes my mind so spacious. Okay, how many of you are of this kind? Is that okay, including our engineer? Okay, how many don't mind having table, sofa, and so forth? Right? Okay. So basically, yes, so from this we can see that this is a meaning. So where physical is seen as very gross. Finally, if you study the Buddhist psychology so well, then you'll see, what is the how the mind works in these different people. Some people who are so fed up in seeing the gross things, so many pillars, right? A small room, 4 pillars, no, 6 pillars, right? Small room, 6 pillars. Some huge auditorium, no pillars. You're getting it? Some just a tiny space, still there is 2 pillars, 3 pillars. Right? It's so suffocating, it's blocking. It makes your mind so suffocated. Okay, so This is all how our mind works. And then as the mind becomes subtler and subtler, one time, and the a very close friends of mine, husband and wife, one day the wife took me to ask me, okay, Gisela, I'd like to take you for a lunch. Then I suggested, she asked me, just you recommend a restaurant. And I suggested one restaurant which is close by my place. And she said, okay, we came there, we ate the food, and I really enjoyed. And she said that the oil is quite heavy. I was amazed. How come that she could make the distinction between different oils? Oil is quite heavy. I was so amazed. Wow, right? What is that skill? And then my teacher, Venerable, who was a lifelong retreatant, he said that he would distinguish between the different milks. Milk of the goat has this effect, the effect where you can feel something like this. Cow milk has this effect, and the buffalo milk have this effect. He would describe all these. Just amazing for us. But the taste may be a little different. Buffalo milk is slightly different. The color is more whitish rather than the yellowish, and the cow milk a little yellowish. That's it. And the taste may be a little difference. But once you take it, then no, I don't see any difference. But he could feel the differences. That's amazing. So when your meditation go deeper, this is human psyche to identify the subtler ones. You're getting it? Okay. So if you live in a house made by Kunchokla, then you will not like to live in a house in your own house, right? This is just amazing. Okay, so these are the things what you see around. You apply this to mind. Then we see that the realized practitioners, meaning some people who have a deep meditative concentration experience. For them, physical body seems so gross. Anything physical is so gross, and they would go for subtler than the physical. What is subtler than physical? Space. So they view only space. They deliberately view only space. That whole universe is pervaded by space. And then when they reach to that level of the success of that, then when they die, they take birth in the formless realm known as the infinite space. Then when you reach that level, again, you see that either it can be because of your own intuitive experience or through the guidance of the higher, the more experienced practitioner, then they then see the space is also very gross. And what is subtler than space? Space is actually something which our eyes can see. What is subtler than space? Consciousness or the mind. Your mind, your eyes cannot see. So they move to the next level to see everything as pervaded by consciousness or the mind. This is known as infinite consciousness. Then look, so when you reach that level, again you see that something is wrong. What's wrong? Now what is subtler than consciousness? Nothing. So what they do is that, look, this is your mind, and this is the consciousness that you are seeing the whole universe pervaded by the consciousness. This is your mind meditating, concentration, which views the whole universe spread by or the pervaded by consciousness. So consciousness as the object and your mind as the consciousness as your object and your mind as the subject. Your meditative mind is the subject, and the object is the whole universe pervaded by consciousness. So what they do is that they drop the object. Because we don't find in the conventional world, we don't find subtler than the mind. So you drop the object that is subtler than the mind. So now what is left? Only the subject is left. You're getting it? So what is the object? Vacuity. Third one is what? Infinite space, infinite consciousness, and vacuity. You drop the object. So what is left? Only subject left. What is object now? Vacuity. Vacuity. Okay, so when you reach that, when you succeed in this meditation, again, okay, vacuity, 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 vacuity. Some people translate the emptiness as vacuity, but it's entirely up to the individual. But things that meaning should not be meaning should be conveyed properly. Meaning should not be misunderstood. So vacuity. Then what happens when the object is already dropped? What is left? Subject. Still, the person could feel something wrong. Something wrong. Something is not right. So they next. What is next, love? What is next? Drop the subject. But we cannot drop the subject because the mind. What is the subject? Your mind, the meditating mind. This meditating mind, for example, like say, who can destroy who can destroy the atoms? Who can annihilate the atoms completely? Anyone? Or can you think of anybody who can annihilate atom completely, tracelessly? Anyone? No. Okay, Kunjola, engineering. Engineering, tell me. Yes, over there, Chakrabortyji. Broken into energy. Yes. So so atoms can be broken but not annihilated. You getting it? It can be broken into pieces like electrons, neutrons, protons, neutrinos, and so forth. And even that can be converted fully into energy form. No material particles, energy form. But still, there's energy there. You're getting it, and the energy can be converted back to the matter converted. So these two are more interchangeable, two different forms, like the water and the ice. Water and the ice, like this. The form changes, but as a material, nobody can damage this. Nobody can destroy this completely. So likewise, the mind cannot be destroyed. Mind has its own unique substance. Substance doesn't mean the material substance. It is the mind has its own, say, the substantial material there. It is not the material substance like what we are talking about, but the mind, the continuum of mind cannot be broken by anything. So therefore, the mind, you cannot drop the mind completely. The object is dropped, but the mind cannot be dropped. Because the mind cannot be dropped, they try to make the mind subtler and subtler and subtler. You getting it? The mind can be made subtler. Say, at the moment, our mind is extremely gross. When you fall asleep, the mind becomes subtler. And one indication is that as the mind, okay, you tell me, as the mind is extremely gross, given that we are not trained in the subtle mind, this is very important. We're not trained in the subtle mind, because of which, as the mind becomes subtler, the mind behaves in its own way. You have no control. With the gross mind, we are used to that gross mind. So we manage this gross mind, we train this gross mind, because of which, when you wake up, then you, okay, now I have to go to class, right? I have to go to class. And then after this group discussion, I will ask this question. So you have some degree of control in the waking state with a gross mind. As the mind becomes subtler, since that we have no training in the subtler mind, the moment the mind becomes subtler by virtue of sleep, by virtue of karmically, we are dying, in process of dying, the mind becomes subtler like sleep, falling asleep. The mind becomes subtler, subtler. As the mind becomes subtler, then you lose control of the mind because you have no training and subtle mind. So the mind will behave according to its own imprints, purely on the basis of imprints. Whereas those people who train their mind, while the mind becomes subtler, then by virtue of the karma, by virtue of the sleep, when the mind becomes subtler, still you can manage the mind. We can manipulate the mind, that the mind cannot act in its own way. For example, for us, even in the class, right? Say you believe, you just see if you agree with me. In this class, or otherwise as well, when you were younger, in your younger days, when in the classroom, and then your eyes are like this, right, falling asleep in the classroom, falling asleep, then the mind starts to wander, right? It reaches to very strange places, meet with strange people, talk to them. Yes, Yes, you lose control as the mind becomes subtler. You getting it? So this is what I meant by the gross and the subtle mind. And okay, should I mention this or not? Say we talk about the gross and subtle mind in sutra system. In sutra system, what we are talking here is subtle and gross mind. Like say the desire realm, the mind of desire realm is very gross. Mind of the form realm is subtler. Mind of the form realm is subtlest. And so there, the say when you drop the object, only the subject is left. Now you want to drop the subject. You cannot drop the subject because the subject is your mind. Your mind cannot be brought to an end completely. So the mind become at the most you can do one thing. You cannot drop the subject. You cannot annihilate the subject. You cannot annihilate the mind, but you can make the mind subtler. You're getting it? You can make the mind subtler. So you make the mind subtler. What happens is that like it it was so too subtle at one point that outsider looking at you may think that you are like a dead person, right? So this is also known as the mind with discrimination and without discrimination. So discrimination, there are many connotations. One very negative connotation, gender discrimination, racial discrimination, so forth. This is not what we are talking about here. Discrimination here is the sense of discernment. So active sense of discernment that was so subtle, inactive, to the state that to the extent that outsider may feel as though like you are like your body's like a corpse. There's no mind there. So it is said that the mind without discrimination and with discrimination. Without discrimination meaning that outsider people may see that you are like a dead person. But with discrimination, because it's a mind, because the mind, there should be some degree of discrimination should be there. So the mind with discrimination, without discrimination, that is the mind of the peak of existence. You get a peak of existence. So on the according to this system, which is sutra system, and this system which we are talking about now, this is common to Buddhism and many of the classical Indian traditions. Today we call this Hinduism. In the past, there's no Hinduism. It was just like Vedanta, Samkhya, Mimamsa, Vaisheshik, Charvaka, and some of these traditions are there. And now today they're all clubbed together and seen as Hinduism. Actually, they are all different traditions, and even the philosophy is just some of them very contradictory to each other. It's not like one system. Just put them together and like United States of America, right? Some states are put together and call it United States. And USSR, what is USSR? What is USSR? What's the full form of that? United Socialist Soviet Republic. Thank you. USSR. United. Likewise, so all these traditions, they were put together and called as Hinduism. Today, in those days, there's nothing as a special as a Hinduism. These are different traditions there. So this concept of the mind becomes subtler, and actually people meditate on this and reach various levels of the meditative concentration power, not only amongst Buddhism, Hinduism, and the Jainism. There are many practitioners who reach very high level. Then the Buddha Shakyamuni, the Buddha's two teachers before the Buddha Shakyamuni sat on the enlightenment throne here. Before the Buddha Shakyamuni sat on the enlightenment throne here to become enlightened, he sought the help of two teachers. The first teacher, Acharya Alara Kalam. Second teacher, Acharya Udreka. Acharya Alara Kalam, Acharya Udreka. Who are these? The first teacher, he reached both reached the formless realm. They even crossed the formal realm. Their meditative concentration, way finer than the form realm. The first teacher, Acharya Alara Kalam, his meditative concentration is that of the vacuity level. Vacuity. Vacuity is extremely high level. Extremely high level. And then the Buddha, Prince Siddhartha, he reached the same level as his teacher very quickly. And then Prince Siddhartha asked for more teachings. And the teacher, Acharya Alarakalam, said that, no, you have got everything now. You reach the same level as I've reached. We are the same now. You stay with me. All my students are your students. And the Prince Siddhartha left because he went in search of the solution for all the sentient beings, not just for your personal freedom, but for all the sentient beings, and who could not get it from Acharya Alarakalam. So although he reached the same meditative concentration as Acharya Alarakalam. So it is therefore what is missing with Acharya Alarakalam? Think of that. Let's not forget it. So that on that basis, we have to know that if you really want to stop the tears of samsara, what is required? We need to have a broad information. You're getting it? Broad information, so that you should be the best judge to make sure that your life is made meaningful. Not being, partially, say, fall into a very partial practice and think that this is everything. So looking at the story, life story of the Buddha Shakti, from there you will get what's the complete meaning for your life. So Acharya Alarakalam could not fulfill the Prince Siddhartha's wish. So Prince Siddhartha left to look for a second teacher. He found the second teacher, Acharya Udrega. And Acharya Udrega, his meditative concentration reached the final one, the peak of existence, the formless, the last one, peak of existence. And again, Prince Siddhartha was trained under him, and soon he reached the same level as his teacher. So what is next? Peak of existence means top of existence. Beyond that, nothing left. So Prince Siddhartha reached the same level, and then asked for more teaching. And the teacher said, you have reached the peak of existence. Peak. There's nothing beyond this. You have reached the ultimate. And the Prince Siddhartha said, no, I have not yet reached the ultimate. I could feel it. Because I don't have the capacity to benefit all the beings. My job coming here is to benefit all the beings. And I'm not equipped with the skills to benefit all the beings. Still, I don't have that solution. So he left, and under the Bodhi tree here, he sat for like 6 years in the austere practice, and finally he found the wisdom of emptiness. You getting it? So the his two teachers, they already succeed in all this meditative concentration, what we do in this planet Earth, but today, mindfulness meditation, there's mindfulness admin. So they have reached far beyond that. Still, they are not enlightened because they were missing the wisdom of emptiness. This is because that the Buddha left the two teachers and then left in search of the path which he wanted to share with all the beings to free the beings from suffering. So what was that path which he found after having left the two teachers? Was the wisdom of emptiness. You getting it? So therefore, if the wisdom of emptiness is lacking, simply by meditative concentration, just think of these. The two teachers reached these two levels. Extreme today. If we see these two teachers, no doubt there would be billions of people following the two teachers. Billions of teachers, the people thinking that this Acharya Udrega is the Buddha. Everybody will think like this. He's not a Buddha. Because the Buddha, Prince Siddhartha, left him. Because Prince Siddhartha reached the same level as his teacher, and still the Prince Siddhartha experientially knew that I'm yet to find the solution to all the problems. So finally, under the Bodhi tree, he found the solution. What is the solution? The wisdom of emptiness. Because of this, that on this planet Earth, it was Buddha Shakyamuni who taught the wisdom of emptiness for the first time on planet Earth. You're getting it? This is something so unique. So now the point is that for us, we try to do meditation on all these. I don't know whether like formless, I don't know when we'll reach that level. But at least the wisdom of emptiness, you will get some idea. It's a pure, say, the analytical meditation. And once you get it, you see how the single point of meditation they calm your mind. And how the wisdom of emptiness calm the mind is very different. You're getting it's very different. So that don't just trust me. You're getting it? You learn this and then try to understand what the wisdom of emptiness is like. Try to get some experience of meditative concentration of different forms. And then you should be the judge to tell yourself that it's not that with wisdom of emptiness, without the single point of meditation, you can manage. No, you cannot manage. So it becomes like a very bright light which can be flickering. So we require both. Then added to that is the Bodhicitta. Okay, having said this, the main point is that we talk about the desire realm, formed realm, formless realm, three realms within samsara. So that the three sufferings, of the three sufferings, first and second suffering, they are not referred to as pervasive. Only the third one is referred to as pervasive. Why? This question. Because, okay, now these are the technical aspects. You know the 10 aspects, and during many of these teachings, they usually like 5-day teaching, one teaching, so you will not get these technicalities. So these technicals you must not miss. When you get the chance to learn this, you have to learn the technical aspects. Okay, the first suffering. What is the first suffering? Suffering. This is not pervasive. It's not pervasive in ways that it does not pervade the three realms. It exists only in the desire realm. Suffering is not pervasive because it exists only in the desire realm. Manifest suffering, sickness, aging, death, pain, and so forth. While ordinary people, everybody can easily identify them as suffering. This exists only in the desire realm. It does not exist in the form and the formless realm. Form and formless realm, death is there. Aging, death are there, but the pain of aging, death is not there. The pain of aging, death. You're getting it? Some people, they age, they take pride. Right? I'm more experienced than you. Right? Did you ever meet with some people like this who take pride in their aging? That I'm more experienced than you, right? You're too young. Hey, Pratish, you're too young, right? Okay. What I'm sharing, these are all experiential. What happened once, I was invited for a meal by one vice chancellor of a university. And then he also invited another professor, a very senior professor. And a senior professor happened to know my predecessor, the former director of Tibet House. And the vice principal, the vice vice chancellor, must have informed the lady professor, very senior lady professor, she must be in the 70s then. I must have informed her that I'm also inviting Geshe Dorji Damdul, the new director of Tibet House. And then I showed up. The lady scanned my body like this. The professor, very senior professor, scanned my body like this. I was in my 40s. She scanned my body like this. And then she said, young director. Right? She said like 3 times. After a while, again, she said, young director. Right? And then during the 3rd time, instantly she corrected. She's saying that young in age, not experience. You understand what he's saying? Young in age. When I say you are young, I don't mean to say that you are young in experience. I don't mean to say that you have no experience. I mean to say you are young in age. You're getting it? So the thing is that some people, they take pride in their age for having experience. So when I say some people, when they say, "Oh, you're young," right? It may not be good. It may not be a compliment, right? But if you are taking huge responsibility, you're totally inexperienced, right? This can be the implicit meaning. We never know. We should be a little careful. Don't take pride. Somebody say you are young. You're getting it? Okay, it can have other meaning also. Okay, so with this, what I'm saying is that the suffering exists only in the desire realm. Okay, suffering change exists in the desire realm and the first 3 form realms. Not in the 4th form realm, not in the formless realm. Suffering change exists in the desire realm and the first 3 form realm. Not in the 4th concentration level and not in the formless realm. So therefore, the first two sufferings are not pervasive. Whereas involuntary birth, examples like involuntary birth, being under the sway of contaminated karmas and afflictions, contaminated aggregates, neutral feelings, they exist in all three realms across the board of realms. In other words, what we identify as the pervasive condition suffering exists across the two realms, across the board of three realms. So therefore, they are known as pervasive. Now, conditioned. So why this suffering is known as conditioned? It's because that predominantly we have to know that involuntary birth was conditioned by the contaminated karmas and afflictions. These two condition us. For example, let's say that my voice is not as good as what I otherwise have. And in fact, I'm so particular with let's say when you sing something, I'm very particular with the tune, the melody, and so forth. But I cannot produce that. Because I don't have this. Say, I'm being driven by the contaminated karmas and afflictions, right? And for example, say your birth, the aging, the body now is fixed. I cannot do anything. Even if there's acute pain, I cannot say, okay, I leave this body for the time being. There's a problem there. No, I cannot leave it. I'm being bound by contaminated karmas and afflictions. So, like all of us, right? So, this is known as we have been conditioned by the contaminated karmas and afflictions. And when will you leave this world? Huh? So when will you leave Root Institute? On 21st or 22nd? 21st. When will you leave this world? Okay, not sure you're getting it. It's not about the age. Right? So there's a Tibetan, the Tibetan practitioners. What they say to talk about impermanence. Sometimes, so particularly the younger ones, they may feel my dad is old, my grandfather is old, my mom is old. Now is the time for them to go. It's so like you remain young forever. So they they're saying that sometimes the parents might have to do the funeral of the children. You getting it? We never know. Because of this, the point is that when I'm going to leave Root Institute, we have some degree of control. Even that is not finalized, right? Even that is not finalized. You may say 21st, on 21st I did the booking of the flight, but 21st you may become sick. The flight may cancel. We never know. Who decides all these things? Your contaminated karmas and afflictions decide, right? And then when you're going to leave this world, nobody can say. You're getting it? Nobody can say. So therefore, we are totally driven by, we have been under the sway of the contaminated karmas and afflictions. Whereas the highly realized beings, that's amazing. There's one great teacher. How many of you heard about Jesus Milarepa? Raise hands. Jesus Milarepa, a great saint. And you must read his biography. And who is respected to have become enlightened within a single lifetime, have become a Buddha within a single lifetime. His biography is so beautiful. It's so complete biography and his teachings. The first part is purely the biography, and the second part is his teachings. Teachings meaning is in the form of biographical teachings, meaning that what he did, then he gave teachings to one person, then again he went somewhere. It was beautifully done. His teacher. In fact, you look at these teachers. For Jesus himself, when he passed away, what happened was that his body was put to be cremated, and the pyre was not taking the fire at all. And actually, Jesus Milarepa was waiting for his chief disciple, Jesus Richungpa, because he was absent then. So somewhere the sound came that I'm waiting for Geshe Rijumba, my student. And Geshe Rijumba finally came. Geshe Rijumba came, and then it took the fire. You getting it? So these are the kind of the control that these enlightened beings have. And even his teacher, which is Milarepa's teacher, which is Marpa. These are just amazing. When you have control of your own mind, then look what they do. For example, Jesus Marpa was giving teachings to his students, and suddenly Jesus Marpa told his students that, okay, quickly set up the offerings, make offerings to the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, make offerings. And the students, they were confused. In the middle of the teaching, he said that. And the students, of course, his personality is very different. Jesus Marpa's personality. So everybody is extremely obedient. They instantly rush to prepare the altar, make offerings, the edible offerings, whatever offerings, they made offerings. And then Jesus Marpa said that my teacher, Jesus Naropa, he came with the entourage of God and goddesses. He came and he is asking me to come to join him. You're getting it? Jesus Marpa already passed away. His teacher already passed away, and he could have the vision that his teacher was coming with his entourage of God and goddesses, and now inviting me to join him. So just do that. And then the students prepared all these offerings, and then the Jesus Marpa went to Samadhi and left the body. This is amazing. And then there was another incident, which was just like maybe like 20, 30 years ago. His Holiness, 1999, His Holiness Gandhi Rinpoche, 1991. Extremely extraordinary. Extremely extraordinary. He was in his last days. He must be in his 90s or late 80s. And his the own younger brother, who also was a brilliant scholar, but he refused. The younger one refused to become the abbot of the big monastic university. His Holiness, they say give the seal to him, saying that you should be the abbot. And then he sought permission from His Holiness that he continued to serve his brother. He was lifelong served as the servant or the attendant of his brother. And his brother, in his last days, he was lying down. And one time, the brother, His Holiness, the 99th Gandhi Rinpoche, he stood up like this. And the younger brother said, no, Rinpoche, you lie down. You are ill. You lie down. And Rinpoche lied. Then usually he used to do a particular practice, make offerings and so forth, around the say 5 o'clock. So that day, he asked, what is the date today? Look, what is the date today? What is the lunar calendar, Tibetan calendar date today? So they said that this is the date. And then after like 3 o'clock, usually this is what he used to do at 5 o'clock. At 3 o'clock, he again got up and asked his disciples that they bring the ritual cakes. And they said, Rinpoche, no, we do it only at 5 o'clock. It's just 3 o'clock. So we have to prepare this. And Rinpoche said, it's okay. Then the others sent something. So they hurriedly prepared this ritual cake to be offered to the to the deities and so forth. And then they went to Rinpoche. Rinpoche, now the ritual cake, all these things are ready. Then Rinpoche said, okay, don't worry. Now I already offered mentally. Don't worry. Then he was sitting up, and the younger brother insisted, Rinpoche, please don't sit like this. Lie down, because the mat is sick. And Rinpoche is sitting down. Look, this is the power of the spiritual realizations. He was sitting down so calm, and what he did, he gestured like this. This is a hand gesture like this, and then he left the body. These are all the controls of the spiritual practice. So, okay, these are the things that we need to know. And these are the real things that actually happened. So, the point is that we're talking about the pervasive conditioned suffering, So suffering is only in desire realm. Okay, what we're saying is how being under the sway of contaminant karmas and afflictions. So what we do, we know we have no control. So when we are going to leave this world, it's all directed by something. What is that? Contaminant karmas and afflictions. They decide for us. We don't have the freedom to choose when we're going to leave the world, right? Okay, so that therefore this is known as a condition. We have been conditioned by the contaminant karmas and afflictions. Then the next one is suffering, of course, right? The being under the control of the contaminant karmas and afflictions, involuntary birth in samsara, contaminated aggregates, the neutral feelings, contaminated neutral feelings, they're all the suffering. Why they're suffering? This is very important. Why they're suffering? We even don't identify that we are being maneuvered by our contaminant karmas and afflictions. We don't even know that we thought that we think that we have the total freedom. What I'm doing? No. What if it is all determined by the contaminant karmas and afflictions? So because of this, we don't have the freedom. Lack of freedom is suffering. Okay. Now they say, and also that is described that this suffering, third suffering, is the mastermind for the first two sufferings. Third suffering is the mastermind of the first two sufferings. And third suffering is the foundation for the first two sufferings. Third suffering is the mastermind and the foundation of the first two sufferings. Okay, let me explain this. This is very important. If you know these technicalities, then you will see the reality more deep, more profoundly, and then how you see the world is going to be very different. What you practice is going to be very different. You would have much more meaning in what you're doing. It becomes much more profound. Okay, let me give an example that how many you are in a job where you have an immediate boss and the boss of the boss. Makes sense? How many you are in this such job where you have the immediate boss and then the boss of the boss, right? Makes sense? Okay, Chingyap, you have the boss and the boss. Maybe in some cases boss, right? Okay, so let's say I'm just creating a story. You're getting it, don't take it too seriously. But apply this. We need to know how to apply this to your to how the pervasive condition suffering is like the mastermind and the foundation for all the first two sufferings. Okay, let's say that your immediate boss is like the suffering and the suffering and the suffering change, and the boss is the, what do you call it? No, what do you call that? Boss in the corporate world? CEO, let's say CEO, right? Okay, your boss and then the CEO above the boss. CEO is like the pervasive condition suffering. But if there's any COO, right, don't take offense. I'm just giving example. Okay, let's say that you're in the job and your immediate boss say started to being so rude to you, right? So rude to you. And good morning, sir, or good morning, ma'am. No reply. Instead of reply, look at the watch, which means that you are late by 2 minutes, right? Which means you are late. You so kindly you said, good morning, sir, good morning, ma'am. And reply is, right? And being so rude, so harsh. And then once in a while, you're the CEO, happen to, two of you happen to be close. And so you said, hi, right? Okay, let's say okay, hi, William, right? William is so happy. My boss is so rude, and my CEO must be even more rude. Now he's very different. Hi, William, right? And William is so high. William's so happy. Oh, William, right? Why don't we have a cup of tea? If you have time, we'll go together. He's the CEO, right? So what an honor. So you could have a cup of tea together. I said, William, if you have any problem, just let me know, okay? Right? Now William is so full of happiness, joy. I don't mind my immediate boss being rude at me. My CEO, he's so kind, gentle. If anything, something malpractice happens between two of us, some problems, I'll report to CEO. And one day, after like 2 months, 3 months, you happen to be passing by the CEO's office, and you can hear a conversation inside. You can overhear the conversation go inside the CEO, and from there, the somebody is telling the other person, right, that you are treating William as so gently. You should be more tough. You should be more strict, right? And you can hear that this voice of the CEO, right? And somebody saying, "Yes, sir. Yes, sir." And who said, "Yes, sir"? Your immediate boss. You will be shocked. Yes, you'll be shocked. What will you discover? That the fact that your immediate boss, the poor boss, he was being rude to you is not because he's rude, because you were being instructed to be rude by the CEO who comes in the facade of a nice person in front of you. You're getting it? That's the mastermind behind your poor boss trying to act as rude to you, right? So, suffering makes us suffer too much. Yet, the mastermind is the pervasive conditioned suffering. You're getting it? And the mastermind say, how many you're afraid that the mastermind may come anytime and that I may not get to my lunch today? No, we don't have that. We don't even feel that contaminant karmas and afflictions they acting on us. We don't even feel that. So in many places, the workers or the staff, they even don't know the presence of the CEO. Whether the CEO is coming to the office or not, you don't know that, because you only see your immediate boss. You getting it? So we have no even clue that the pervasive condition suffering is actually operating on me. Okay, so let's give an example. Say, what's the problem like? That say the okay, now the next scenario, that your CEO is really good now. Your CEO is really good, but immediate boss is really unkind to you. And every time you go to the workplace, you feel a little tense, right? Sometimes. Does it happen? When you go to the workplace, instantly you feel a little suffocated, tense, more formal. Okay, which means Monday mornings, right? Tense, grumpy. Friday evenings, right? Okay, maybe because of the boss, immediate boss. Right? Boss may be too rude. So one day you get a news that your boss is going on a holiday, 1 month holiday. Are you happy? Not happy? Huh? Look at your face. I can see that you're very happy. Right? Extremely happy. Wow. Right? Okay. You're so happy. So the next day you come to the office, you feel as though like you are released from the prison. You can feel that, right? It's very different. And then the 10 days pass, 20 days pass. Then what happens? Again, the mental stress starts to build in. Yes, you agree with me? Why? Because now the boss is coming after 10 days, after 9 days, after 8 days, and then the mind becomes heavier, heavier. Boss is not doing anything bad, but you are under influence of him, influence of her, because of which you would feel that. You're getting it? And then there's a mastermind. One day after the boss comes, then you get a news that your boss is transferred to another country for good. You're happy? You're forever happy. You're getting it? Okay. So this is when you get away from the influence of contempt, karmas, afflictions. That is the total freedom. You're getting it? Okay. So that is known as the pervasive conditioned suffering. Okay, look. So the second seal, what is the second seal? Chanjula. All contaminated things are the nature of suffering. Okay, now, and the suffering, of course, when you say all contaminated things are the nature of suffering, if you think about the manifest suffering all the time, sickness, aging, death, and so forth, only this one, then your understanding of your renunciation is very gross, very gross. Whereas if you think of the improve the suffering change, then it becomes subtler, but it's still not the subtlest. Then if you include the suffering of the pervasive condition of suffering, then it becomes very subtle. Finally, if you go for retreat, personal retreat, or sometimes people say that, how many of you have heard this? Oh, I'm fed up with samsara. I want to leave everything and go to Himalaya. How many of you heard about these statements? People are making such statements, right? This is quite often, right? So, what is that suffering that they're fed up with? Suffering. You're getting it? When the suffering diminishes, suffering change comes, they'll come back, right? Then they'll come back. They say, oh no, it's a wow, we are so happy. We have a happy family, right? Okay, so that is when the suffering is replaced by suffering change. And pervasive continuous suffering, they have no clue that it exists. Okay, now if you can include the suffering change, pervasive continuous suffering, then it becomes really very profound. Having said this, one thing that I'd like to share with you is that some people, when they meditate on impermanence and the truth of suffering, the first two are the seals, then some people go through depression. So if that happens, that is that the person is more thinking about the suffering, not much in suffering change and the pervasive condition suffering. So if you only think about the suffering all the time, then it can make you go into depression. And you may get a feeling as though like, oh, now I'm depressed, it's so heavy, I simply want to stop this practice altogether. I want to go somewhere else where I can take a fresh breath of air. If that thought is coming, this is a inclination of depression. It's not the renunciation. You're getting it? What's the real renunciation? You get a similar feeling. Okay, it's so unbearable. But you will not think of, okay, I just want to leave it and go somewhere else. If that thought comes, this is taking the form of depression. Whereas real renunciation is that you feel a little bit of suffocation, but you'll not feel like dropping the practice, because for you are thinking of the pervasive condition suffering, and you feel the suffocation. Pervasive condition suffering exists wherever you go. You're getting it, pervades all samsara. It pervades. So you deep inside your mind, you got to feel, no matter where I go, it's the same, right? As long as I don't exit from samsara, this problem will continue. You're getting it? So your desire to exit from samsara, not exit from your place, local place. If the thought to exit the local place and go somewhere else, so that I may feel more fresh air, that is depression, not renunciation, right? The real renunciation is that initially you feel a little bit of the suffocation and uneasiness there, but then you don't. The thought of leaving this practice will never come to you. Instead, the thought of valuing this practice will increase, and the thought that wherever I go is the same. Wherever I go, pervasive condition suffering pervades. Wherever I go. Form realm, formless realm, in desire realm, of course, wherever go is suffering. If that thought comes, then the real renunciation comes to you, that I want to exit samsara. Till I exit samsara, the tears of samsara will continue. You're getting it? Okay. So this is the difference between the depression and the real sense of renunciation. So some people say, oh, I want to renounce everything, go to Himalaya. Actually, they're suffocated by the suffering, which everybody. if you're inflicted by suffering, days after days after days, for sure you will feel suffocated. And they want to leave everything. In fact, I heard some of my friends saying that, Geshe, I just want to leave everything, my family, everything, and go somewhere else where nobody knows who I am, right? So that is escapism. This is not renunciation, right? You are trying to escape, and this is not the real solution, because they also, what attracts the, what create, what is the, who manufactures contaminant karmas and afflictions? Who drives you? Contaminant karmas and afflictions. And who manufactures these two? Self-grasping, ignorance, self-centered attitude. Where you travel, these two also travel. The manufacturer also travel with you. Manufacturing machine you carry with you. Then they'll continue to manufacture these contaminant karmas and afflictions. Then they'll continue to create tears in you. You're getting it? So this is what it is. So once, there was many years ago, in Tibet, there was a big businessman, maybe a CEO, right? A big businessman who had a lot of properties, extremely wealthy, so many the helpers, secretaries, helpers, servants, and so forth. And he picked up the biography of Jesus Milarepa. Jesus Milarepa, the one who was like a beggar, who had nothing, became enlightened within a single lifetime. He read this biography. This biography he could read in 2 days' time. But this life story happened over the stretch of like 50, 60, 70 years. It's not just 2-day program. But he read it in 2 days. And he was so inspired. He said, I'd like to also become a second Jesus Milarepa. So what he did, he distributed he gave away all the properties, distributed the properties to different people, friends, staff, just the finish of everything. Then he went to the mountain. For what? Because just Milarepa practice in the mountains. So he went to the mountain because he wanted to become the second Jesus Milarepa. Oh, he was sitting. And then what Jesus Milarepa must be doing? He must be sitting like this. So he was also sitting like this. Then slowly, after 2 hours, 3 hours, you start to feel hungry, right? And no food coming. No mind, I'm going to just Milarepa. Then in the night, it's very cold. Usually he has very cozy blankets. No blankets coming, right? Feeling so cold. Never mind, I'm just Milarepa, right? 1 day is okay. Second is okay. Third day is okay, right? Now what am I doing? I'm like a rabbit. Even the rabbit sits like this, right? I'm also doing like this. Same. Rabbit is not thinking anything, just sitting like this. And I'm also not thinking anything. I'm sitting like this. I'm like a rabbit. What's the difference? Then the 4th day, he became extremely angry towards Jesus Milarepa. He said that he's a beggar and he made me a second beggar. Not second Jesus Milarepa, second beggar. Now I can go back. All the prophets already gave. I own nothing and I don't have spiritual realization. I have no material realizations. Right? He made me a second beggar. So this should not happen. You're getting it? We should know these things. 3 levels of suffering. Usually when we talk about renunciation or renounce of suffering, look at the suffering of samsara, all this suffering is taught. But not so much the suffering change and the pervasive condition suffering. So those people who are really want to experience renunciation, we must think of all the 3 kinds of suffering, particularly the pervasive condition suffering. For the pervasive condition suffering, you must go through systematic studies. Without this, just by some teacher giving empowerment and explaining what is like samsara, it's like suffering and so forth. This is all suffering, not the pervasive condition suffering. So therefore, we must go through systematic studies. You should become self-sufficient. You're getting it? You should become self-sufficient. Eventually, you should become self-sufficient. When in practice, you don't really have to, every day you have to go to a teacher. No, why? You should become self-sufficient. So Buddha Shakyamuni, after the first 2 teachers, then he left, he became self-sufficient. Make self-sufficient. How to make self-sufficient? Go for a systematic studies. You're getting it? Don't sway it by this Rinpoche, that Geshe, that Kempo, and so forth. Don't go like this. Go for a systematic study. Be self-sufficient. You should become enlightened. You're getting it? That you should be able to benefit others. Don't be always remain as a recipient of the recipient of the benefits. You should become the benefactor yourself for all the sentient beings. Okay. So with this is the meaning of the all contaminated things are suffering nature. The next, everything is the nature of emptiness, selflessness. So is there an end to the suffering? If you really feel it, the truth of the suffering, that all contaminated things are suffering nature, is acutely painful to think of this, very scary also. So with this, is there a way out? This question. Naturally, the question will come, is there a way out? Yes, of course, there is a way out. And some people, they say that in Buddhism, everything is suffering. This is total naivety. Let me repeat it. But the first statement, many people say that in Buddhism, everything is impermanent. This is total naivety. Not everything is impermanent. What is impermanent? Only composite things are impermanent, not the non-composite phenomena. You getting it? Okay. Now the second statement, which says, all contaminated things are suffering nature. Again, many people say that in Buddhism, everything is suffering. Right? So because of which people get the impression that Buddhism is a self-denial religion. It is not. Only contaminated things are suffering. When your mind is contaminated, then it drives us into suffering. Otherwise, it's not necessary that everything's suffering, because there's a way out of samsara. There is what is known as transcendence of sorrow is absolute peace. The Buddha taught absolute peace. There's absolute peace there. So therefore, if you ever hear somebody saying that in Buddhism everything's suffering, you have to know that this is total naivety. You're getting it? You should be able to explain this to other person that is not. It's a misconception, total misconception and total naivety. Okay, if there is a way out, what is the way out? For this, we have to know what is the cause of the suffering. You have to track the cause. You're getting it? Okay. Let me just give you, let me cook a story. Let me cook up a story, and then I seek your advice, and you give me the advice. Ready? Right? You should give me advice. Okay, for this, you have to know the situation. I'm creating a situation, and I'll seek your advice, and you give me the advice. The situation is that I live in Delhi. This is a fact. And I live on the third floor. It's also a fact. And in summer, in some particularly, let's say what, March, April, is extremely dry in Delhi. That's also true. But what happens is that in my house, there's some moisture there, dampness there. Because of that dampness, I have the asthma. And this is not true. I'm just cooking up the story. Don't worry, right? Okay, if I don't say this, people again send so many medicines, asthma medicines. This is what happens usually. So I'm cooking up the story. So because of this dampness in my house, I have asthma problem. So how to get rid of this asthma? I don't want this. I'm fed up with this asthma problem. How should I get rid of this asthma problem? Just raise your hands. Just raise hands. Raise your hands. No advice? Yes. Okay. Okay, buy dehumidifier. Buy dehumidifier. Yeah, sometimes, yeah, I bought it once and it breaks down so easily. And I call the mechanic, and mechanic said, I'll come tomorrow. It never comes. Yeah, right. And also it's very expensive. Very expensive. Yeah. Anyone else? Anyone else? Raise hands over there. Move somewhere, right? I have so many books. Again, from third floor, bring the books down. Big headache. Anyone else? No advice. No advice. No advice. Here. Go see the doctor. Yeah. Ames is close by. Ames is close by my place. Ames. Right? What is Ames? Dr. La. Hey, Bamala, what is AIMS? All India Institute of Medical Science. AIMS is next. Go to the doctor, right? Okay, yeah, I go to the doctor. That's true. Yeah. Anyone else? Any advice? No advice. No. Raise hands. Raise hands. Yes, Manjurji. Okay, this is NTC 1, right? Okay, why I did not allow this girl and here is because they already know the, yeah. Okay, so deliberately I pretend, so I didn't see them because they're going to give me the correct answer, correct advice. So the thing is that then the your name, Adriana, here the Bhumiga and Manjariji, three of them come to me. Hey, Gisela, don't buy dehumidifier, right? Don't be too rash. Don't act too rash. Don't listen to people very easily, right? You used to say, take things, don't accept easily, don't reject easily, right? Don't accept the other's advice so easily, right? You used to say this, apply it. Oh, yes. So what should I do? So three of them tell me that, Gisela, wait, give me 10 minutes. Give us 10 minutes. So 10 minutes, they go around. Okay, they go out of my room. Okay. And they said that, Manjari said that, don't buy dehumidifier. And Adriana said, no need to go to hospital. Right? No need to go to hospital. And Bhumiga said, no need to change your room also. Right? It's so many heavy books are there. You don't have to change the books, right? Just give us 10 minutes. So three of them went around and said, Gishara, now we got a solution, right? Just, where is 10 rupees? So I gave the 10 rupees to them. They took it and then they brought a glue, MS Seal, very strong glue. And then they show that Gisela, this is a problem, pipeline. There's a crack, very subtle crack there. This crack, so there you don't see the water coming out, like oozing out like this. If it's oozing out like this, this is a problem. But it's a very subtle crack. There is some water coming out, but it's so subtle that you cannot see that. So because of this, the dampness gradually builds up. So they fix it with the glue, finish. The dampness stops, my asthma stops. I don't have to buy dehumidifier. I don't have to go to hospital. I don't have to move my house. You getting it? In 10 rupees, everything is fixed very comfortably. You getting it? Because you are able to identify the cause of the root of the cause of the problem, root of the problem. You have to be able to identify the cause. This is so important. Likewise, for all our problems, you have to identify the root cause. What's the root cause of all the problems? Self-grasping ignorance. So we have to tackle the self-grasping ignorance. We have to tackle the root cause. Meanwhile, we have to tackle the contaminant karmas, afflictions, inappropriate. We have to tackle these. But finally, we have to tackle the root cause. You getting it? Finally, we have to tackle the root cause. So how to tackle the root cause? Self-grasping ignorance. How to tackle that? By introducing the counterforce, wisdom of emptiness. You getting it? This is why when this wisdom of emptiness is missing, the root is not tackled. Because of which the two teachers of Buddha Shakyamuni, the two teachers, they could not help Prince Siddhartha to get out of samsara because they themselves were in samsara. They could not help themselves to get out of samsara. How can they help the Prince Siddhartha to get out of samsara? Because these two teachers, they were not tackling the root cause of samsara. They could not identify the root cause of samsara. You getting it? So how to tackle the root cause of samsara is by introducing wisdom. So this wisdom was not what the Prince Siddhartha learned from these two teachers. These two teachers could not share this wisdom. So what is this wisdom? This question. Wisdom is a discerning mind whose apprehension of the object tallies with the reality. Let me repeat it. Wisdom is the discerning mind whose apprehension of the object tallies with the reality. In the first place, I like to reiterate this, that if you say in the dark you want to read a book, say in the night you want to read a book, and suddenly there's a power cut, you cannot read the book. So what do you do? Right? And then, oh, this is land of the Buddha, Buddha's enlightenment. So Buddha's nearby us. Buddha, please remove the darkness, right? Buddha, please remove the darkness. You are here, you become enlightened under here. Please help us remove the darkness. If the Buddha is sitting next to you, Buddha will be very upset. What a stupid follower. You're getting it? What a stupid follower. Why don't you light a candle? You're getting it? You light a candle, the Buddha will be extremely happy. This is a smart student, smart disciple. You're getting it? So therefore, we have to introduce a counterforce. All these other practices, like generosity, ethical discipline, and so forth, all these practices are to build your strength, to build the counterforce. What's the counterforce? Wisdom of emptiness. To build that. Bodhicitta Shantideva in his text, Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, chapter 9, what he said is that the wisdom liberates the beings. All other teachings of Buddhas are meant to enhance this wisdom. Let me repeat it. Wisdom is the one which liberates the beings. And all other teachings of Buddha are meant to enhance this wisdom. You getting it? Okay. Okay. So with this wisdom, we need to ignite this wisdom. We need to introduce counter force. And in the Tibetan Buddhism, while there's a rich tradition of academic studies and so forth, the blind faith element is also there, unfortunately. Because of this blind faith, right? Say some people, they're not so keen on the introduce the counter force. They into Dhamma for so many years. And what is the wisdom? They have no clue. What's the wisdom? And they may say something, mimic what the teacher said. If you ask the second question, they got stuck. Very unfortunate. While the Tibetan tradition is extremely rich with academic studies, rich with this wisdom, but many people, they fall into the other side, the blind faith side. This is very unfortunate. And then this is what I have seen in some conferences. Some of these people, they come, they were invited, and then they talk about some wisdom, and then the audience, they ask the question, they got stuck, right? Because they just mimic, they're not convinced. They don't get the conviction. They just mimic. So therefore, these are the studies that we have to do. So finally, you should become self-sufficient. You're getting it? Not to follow blindly. Okay. So the wisdom. What is the wisdom? Wisdom is a discerning mind whose apprehension of the object tallies with the reality. Let me repeat it. We need to introduce the counterforce of the ignorance. That is the wisdom. What is the wisdom? Wisdom is a discerning mind whose apprehension of the object tallies with the reality. What's the next question? What's the reality? The reality is what the Buddha taught as the third seal. Everything is the nature of emptiness and selflessness. It's not that the Buddha just randomly said 4 lines. They're all linked to each other. First, we'll take you to the understanding of the second link, that this is the suffering, where things are impermanent. The next moment is decided by the first moment. If the first moment is contaminated, the next moment is going to be suffering. So they all contaminate things of suffering nature. Because the suffering is something which we don't like, if you don't want it, then remove the contamination. What's the worst of contamination? Self-grasping ignorance. How to remove that? Introduce the counterforce. What's the counterforce? The wisdom to see it well. What is wisdom? Wisdom is a discerning mind whose apprehension of the object tallies with reality. What's the reality? Reality is the third seal. Everything's nature, emptiness, selflessness. Okay, we stop here. Yata Om Gati Gati Paragati Parasamgati Bodhisvatyata Om Gati Gati Paragati Parasamgate Bodhisvatyata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhisvaha. 3 processions together.